Welcome back to the Corporate Burnouts. How are you, Mandy?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited and ready for Thanksgiving. What about you?
Yeah, no, I'm excited too. We have a couple of places that we're going, and we're taking the new camper to we're going to stay at my parents' house in the camper, and then we're going to go out to Anna and John's and with the whole family and the kids and everybody,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone's bringing their campers out there so we can all stay the weekend, and it's fun. It's
Nice. I
fun,
love that.
especially in a new camper. It's fun because we haven't slept in there yet, so we're excited.
I get to go to Meemaw's house and see the entire extended family. It's actually kind of funny that we call her Meemaw because it's my granny's sister. But
Okay.
everybody calls Granny Granny and everybody calls
Mhm.
Meemaw Meemaw. It's just the rules. But it's like
Yeah.
Granny and all her siblings and their kids and their kids' kids and some of their kids' kids. So
Yep.
it's a huge event. I've never, ever, well, I take that back. I had strep throat one year, and that's the only time I've ever missed Thanksgiving at Meemaw's. So we don't
Yeah.
do a lot of family traditions, but this is a good one.
Yeah. No, I love that. I can't imagine having a family that big. You know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
can't imagine all the because I've just always had such a small family. With Dan's family, it's a little bit more extended, but still,
Yeah.
very much a smaller family. So it sounds like a lot of fun. It also sounds like my worst nightmare, but I think it could
Well,
be a
you
little
would
bit of
think,
both.
yeah, Meemaw's house is not very big, and we usually have somewhere between 50 and 70 people there. Like, it's a lot.
It's
But a
a
lot of
lot.
people hang out outside in the backyard, and then the old men go into the
Hmm.
living room and watch football. The old ladies
Hmm.
stay at the kitchen table, and then there's like a playroom with the room set up where the cool kids hang out. That's me.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so they're like kind of all spread out. Everybody does their own thing. And, for a lot of this family, Thanksgiving's the only time that I see them. Like, we catch up once a
Yeah.
year, like, hey, how's it been
Hmm.
going? See
Yep.
you next year. But it
Hmm.
is still really cool. Like, and I made a promise to my mom that I would never not go to Meemaw's as long as Granny was alive. And,
Yep.
well, she's
Well, this
85.
is yeah, this is where the
So,
people are at. You got to go, This
yeah,
is where the
yeah, of
family's at.
course. It's
I
funny.
love
It's like
that.
I'm sticking by this promise, but it's really not for promise sake. I'm
No.
taking deviled eggs. Everybody else is
Yeah.
making the rest. Makes me
Yep.
happy.
I love that. So Chad said that he couldn't tell that you got a haircut, but I can tell. It looks
Yeah,
it looks so good.
it's so much shorter. So much shorter. I got
Yeah.
8 inches cut off.
Yeah. Yeah. But it looks good. I can tell in the frame.
Thanks.
I looked at your hair probably more than Chad
Yeah.
did, but we're on with
Yeah, he
them
was
a
like, you
lot.
always have it on the top of your head. And I was like, you must not watch our podcast.
Yeah. He said, no, I don't.
He's like, I don't
He
watch
said,
my own podcast.
He said, I watched it a little bit to judge the clips and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
he was like, it's too poppy. And I'm like, we won't do your podcast that way. That's fine.
Yep.
All
It's
right.
funny.
So hopefully you all listened to last week and listened to Denise. She came on and talked about HR and leadership, coaching and development and stuff like that. And it really got us thinking. We have had a ton of great development through our career,
Yeah.
both self and professional. And it's something that we were taught to focus on and still focus on. And we haven't really talked about it. And I think it's huge. And we just want to dig into it today.
Yeah. I was thinking about it as we were kind of preparing for this. I don't know that everyone in the corporate environment is as lucky as we were to work for a company, but specifically a group of leaders that were so invested in development. Because,
Mm,
like you said, a lot of the development that we did was kind of on our own a little bit, but we were pushed to do that. Like,
mm,
development, self-development, professional development, whichever direction you want to go, was always a part of our goal setting.
mm-hmm.
Goals were applied to bonuses and things like that. So, I mean, it was definitely drilled into our head that it was important. And I really, really appreciate that because
Yeah.
that's one of the things that has been maybe harder for me post corporate is keeping up on those things. I can't tell you the last time that I read a book that was developmental related. I guess I'm still doing the self-development side, but it's more on the therapy and, inner
Mm,
work and that kind of stuff. So the
yeah.
focus is a little bit different. But yeah, like being pushed to continue to grow and develop and be a better version of yourself or have stronger skill sets in certain areas is something that I took for granted. And
A
now it's
little
all
bit.
very
Yeah.
self-paced.
Some of it I took for granted. Some of it I definitely did not. And I think that, you know, when you're thinking about professional development, you are pigeonholing it down to some of the stuff that we did, but you are still doing the self-development by learning new skills. Like you're learning
Yeah.
SEO right now and you're, you know what I mean? Like you get excited about stuff like that. So there's so many different kinds. I'd like to talk about them,
Yeah, I was
like
going
the
to
different
say
kinds.
that really lends itself to all the different kinds of development, because the development
Mhm.
that I was doing in the corporate world and what I'm getting to develop in now looks
Mhm.
completely different. And it's not to say that it's not development at all. It just really goes to show you that you can continue to learn and grow in
Mhm.
so many different ways. And I
Yeah.
just think about those people who maybe on the cusp of burnout or feeling like they're just stuck a little bit, still working for corporate, trying to figure out how do I light that fire again? And I think that this is a really, beneficial way to do that and figure
It
out what's important to you and what you want to dive into.
Mhm.
And, like you said, there's a billion different ways that you can do this.
Yeah, and it's everything when it comes to remotivating yourself, because I wouldn't have been able to do the job that we did for so long
Mhm.
if there hadn't been those opportunities,
Yeah.
right? Because there were times when I was just so burned out and I'm like, I don't see a light at the end of this tunnel. Like, I don't see a time where I might be excited again because it all just feels so heavy with all the things that have to get done, right? And so I think a lot of people go through that. So let's just go through, because I really got a lot out of professional development, and it
Mhm.
helped kind of dig me out of burnout a little bit sometimes because I would get the light burning again.
Yep.
So obviously there's professional development, and we'll dig into all the things that that includes, but there's also personal development, and that can include things like just working on your mindset or your confidence. I
Mhm.
mean, if you're burned out, fixing your mindset,
Will
huge.
change
I mean,
everything.
because mindset is everything. I think it's the reason why I have never completely crashed and burned, is because I will always figure out how to set it where I need it to be so that I
Yeah.
can get through whatever I'm in, right? Therapy and coaching, that's what we're in right now, like really. And I know that we've mentioned therapy a couple times, but we are both on a therapy journey that is, because if you've listened to all of our episodes, you know that we've always been looking for a therapist bestie, but
I
we
know,
didn't
but
find
we're paying
we
for
didn't
it right
find one.
now.
Yes, now we
So,
pay.
come on, friends.
And it's fine. The kind of therapy that we're both doing is a necessary. A friend can't work you through that,
Yeah.
right? You really do need somebody one-on-one to help you through this, but I feel better than I've felt in 20 years from just getting all of this stuff out of my body. So
Yeah,
this is the biggest
self-awareness,
development that I've worked on.
the
Mhm.
self-awareness aspect of that and really exploring yourself from the inside. I mean, I can't speak for anybody else, and maybe it's because we're like, kind of in our 40s now at a completely different place in life, looking at things that it's like hitting so hard and it is so necessary, but it's also it's cathartic, but it like feels good in a painful kind of way where you're like learning and growing. But I have to remind myself, like, going to the gym hurts too. This is good. This is
Mhm.
good.
Yes, I think so too. And I would rather be fit in my mind than
Mm-hmm.
outside. You know what I mean? Because it really, like,
Yeah.
it changes how I look at everything. I I think that now is the perfect time for me to be doing this kind of work and this kind of development on myself. But if you are 24 and
Start now. Oh my
yes,
God.
yeah, please start earlier. I think I would have had so much easier of a time figuring out who I am and being comfortable with myself and love myself and all that stuff if I would have started earlier. So
Yeah.
I don't think that you have to wait. I think everyone should be, if you're going to school, you should be in therapy. If you're, if you have parents, you should be in therapy. Like everyone because it's just dealing with a whole bunch of humans. There's a lot that
Yeah.
can, go wrong, but we'll move on past this therapy talk. But for personal development, I have one on the list that I think that Mandy should focus on. Are you ready?
Stop it. I don't want to talk about time management.
I can't believe you know what
You're
I was gonna
rude.
say.
I knew exactly what you were going to say.
Anyway, we'll keep
I don't
moving.
want to
All
talk
right.
about it. I don't want to.
So
Yeah.
another type
Okay,
of
let's talk about
yeah.
creative development, though, because
Let's talk
creative
about
development might actually be more enjoyable for Mandy to talk about. Um,
it.
and this is something that I'm still not very good at, except in the way of the creative aspect at work, right? Like
Mm,
the creative development in my world has been like learning the SEO and even, in starting this and figuring out website design and branding and that kind of stuff. Like that has really lit me on fire. But I also think that like hobbies, things that you can do outside of your paid profession
mhm,
is a really great way to develop and invest in yourself,
mhm,
to really just become a more well-rounded, happier human. And that
mhm,
could be photography, it could be
mhm.
a side hustle or writing. Like, I wish that I was a lyricist. Like, sometimes I'll be listening to music and I'm like, I could have wrote that.
Yeah,
Girl,
but
bye.
you can't.
No.
I know, and I can't either, and but I think you can learn
Hmm.
to do stuff like that. The reason that I know that I could write the actual lyrics, I couldn't write the music because every time that I would think of something, like think of making something up, it would sound like something else, right? But some
Yeah.
people are so good at that, but I think it can be developed. And I think it's the same like these blankets that I make, right? These
Yeah.
blankets make me so happy. I'm so glad that I pushed myself to learn how to do that because it's the most relaxing. I know I've talked about it before, but it's literally the most relaxing hobby that I have. And I had to learn how to do it. I felt stupid for a bit,
Yeah.
but then you just get there and then it's all good. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
and now you have a fun new hobby that relaxes you or lights you up or
Yeah. And I think
whatever.
this is probably the most important of the different types of development that you can do, because not all of your joy has to come from productivity. And we are so guilty of finding our
Mhm.
self-worth and getting that joy out of life, either from other people, external factors like your family or your kids or your friends or whatever, which are all great. I'm not trying to discount that at all. But getting that from an external place or finding that in a work, in a job well done. But like, what about you? What about just you? How can you
Mhm.
cultivate your own joy outside of all of those other factors that really aren't you? What can you do for
Mhm.
yourself and invest in to feel good about yourself and create joy that really isn't dependent upon a job that you have or a relationship that you have or, you know, any of the other external factors that unfortunately we tend to lean on for happiness.
So some of this self-development stuff can be a little bit taboo, right? Do you
Yeah.
remember that Gilmore Girls episode where Luke had the self-development books and I think Jess found them and he
And made
made
fun
fun
of
of him
him.
so much.
He
Yeah.
ripped him.
No, they were on tape, right? He was
Yeah.
listening to them and then Jess ended up actually getting a lot out of them and it was really funny, but um
Jess was
I
kind of the worst.
he was but also the best. I don't know. I think that should have been endgame for Rory, but I don't want anyone to feel embarrassed, right, by what they
Yeah.
decide to do to help themselves be better. Get rid of the stigma
Yeah.
and just read what you want to read, get the development that you want to get. At this point, listen to the podcasts about parenting or yeah. So Mandy has a book.
I was about to say, have you ever been reading a book for development or whatever, like on an airplane or in a public place and been like, I really wish that I had like one of those book covers like you had for your textbooks in school where people
Yeah.
didn't know what you were reading. This is my favorite self-development book that I've ever had to read in public. I didn't have to read it. I just wanted to, and my kids were pissed. It didn't work.
It
It
didn't
didn't
work.
work. How to change your child's attitude, behavior, and character in 5 days. Turns out you have to apply what you learn. I don't think I did that right, but
Mhm.
it was definitely fun. People would stop me, like, be like, "Is that book working for you? Like, how bad are your kids?" I'm like,
Yeah. No, not really that bad. But at the same time, like when you really think about it, like you don't want to change your kids. I understand like the attitudes. Kids have
yeah,
attitudes.
I
But
created them, so like, what are you gonna do? What
yeah.
this book actually kind of dives into is more of some of those, uh, like corrective behaviors where like I was at a place where I was like pulling my hair out, like I can spank you, I can ground you, I can, but it's a cycle. And it was a
Hmm.
cycle because they were following my lead. They still
Hmm.
follow my lead. That's why they still have
Hmm.
attitudes. So,
Yeah. Yeah. But that's the type of stuff, the personal development, the parenting development,
mhm.
There's so many things that people can be doing. Don't be embarrassed to do that. Get better. Just
Yeah.
figure out how to get better every day, right?
I think another area where it's not really taboo, but I think it can be a little bit embarrassing. People feel shame around it is in financial literacy.
Mm, yeah.
And that is an area where I feel like we were really, really lucky. We had some
Mhm.
leaders that knew and understood that a lot of the people that we worked with, a lot of the people at our level in corporate were making real money for the first time in their life and they don't know what to do with it. We were
Mhm.
getting stock. We were getting like there were benefits
Yep.
available to us, investment things available to us that it's like I don't know anything about that. So
Mhm.
we were fed a whole bunch of education on that and given guidance, not necessarily as like a financial advisor, but guidance to get a financial advisor and to make smart decisions with the money that we were, you know, getting and earning
Mhm.
to set ourselves up for the future. And I don't think a lot of companies do that. So I would say
Probably
on that
not.
one very specifically, especially if you are young in your role or just young in general and making money for the first time that, you know, not necessarily paycheck to paycheck or things like that. No shame. Learn whether
Yeah.
it's a book, a program, like go seek out a financial advisor, but having shame
Mhm.
around learning about your finances, you're only going to hate yourself once you get to your 40s.
Later.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it also it when it was time for me to figure out what I was going to do with my 401k once I quit my job, it allowed me to make good choices with how I was going to invest that
Yeah.
money. And I appreciate it every day. So, I
Yeah.
think it's something good to learn too.
And like I said, I don't think that everyone has those people in your face that want to give you this knowledge. We
Mhm.
were very blessed and lucky because I was just a dummy who wasn't even looking for that guidance and mentorship in somebody else. So thankfully
Mhm.
they came to us with it. But if you find yourself going, I pay my bills, but that's as far as we're getting, that might be
Mhm.
a really great place to start and develop and learn
Yeah.
young
And
how to save yourself later.
there's so much to learn on TikTok also
Oh yeah.
about financial stuff, right? And not everybody is going to be saying things that make sense to you or even that you agree with. Not everyone is going to agree with Dave Ramsey's way of doing things or some of
Right.
those more popular financial advice folks, but
Mhm.
find the one that makes the most sense to you and follow them and get lots of good tips. That's good development.
Yeah, I also think that the physical aspect of things, this is something that I've never been good at. I used to set like hydration goals and things like that, and I would just do
Mhm.
little things at a time. But I don't know about you, but when we were burning our candle at both ends in the corporate world, my physical health was the last thing that I was concerned
Yeah.
about. I can remember having
Mhm.
conversations with my husband, gaining weight, just like steadily gaining weight. And I just
Mhm.
remember being like, this is not my focus. That's not what I'm worried about. I'm like, I am developing and growing in so many other ways. Like that can take a back seat
Mhm.
for now.
Well, and you were in survival mode a lot of the
I
time.
didn't know
We
it
all
then. I
were.
didn't know
Yeah.
it then at
Mhm.
all. I was definitely telling myself that, you know, I was growing on the inside. Well, girl, you're growing on the outside too. You need to do something about that. So, just that well rounded approach and including that in your thought process. And it doesn't, you know, it's not always about weight, right? For me, that's the way that it manifested. And I could see that my lifestyle and my choices were not healthy ones and it was showing.
Mhm.
But your sleep, just the way that you move your body and create
Mhm.
energy, the hydration, your nutrition, there's so many resources that you can utilize on those things. And to your point that you just said, you don't have to believe everything you read or hear or, you know, apply every practice, but the more you know, you're going to find something that works for you.
Mhm.
Um, because what I've found is that burnout it's kind of physiological. It's not
Mhm.
just about the time and
Yep.
effort that you spend in work, right? Like
Yep.
it's a whole body experience.
It is. Body and mind and soul
Mhm.
and all of it. It affects everything. So I really recommend again, it at the very least on Facebook or TikTok, follow some of these people who are giving tips about health and wellness and just try and apply a little bit, right? And just remember that some people are going to say it's all about meditating and yoga. It's all about, and it's like, we had an episode with Kalina where we talked about that. That's not everybody needs to slow
Mhm.
down, not everybody needs to be meditating,
Yeah.
right? But if you do, that's great. Some of
Mhm.
us to be focused more on massage
Yeah.
and
Or
and just,
taekwondo.
yes, or taekwondo. What a nice callback. I just want everyone to think about it. I didn't realize how much wellness education was out there when I was in
Yeah.
corporate, because it was literally the last thing on my list. I went to the gym, I did those things because it did help me. But until I started networking and meeting these people in health and wellness, I didn't realize how much stuff was out there to
Mhm.
help every person that needed to focus their health in some way.
Yeah.
And that's been super helpful to me to just meet people who are focused on it. I've learned so much. So
Yeah, well,
I
you
recommend it.
obviously can't focus on all of these things at one time, because that can be really overwhelming. But
Mhm,
I really loved the way that we did it, and I think that it was smart and manageable. That, you know, 1 quarter at a time, you would set a goal around something developmental, could fall into any of those categories or even subcategories, but give yourself 3 months to really focus in and dive into something that you can take something tangible out of. Some of the things that we focused on, like having a new kid by Friday,
mhm.
I didn't like that. 3
It
months,
fell to the
that's 3 months
wayside.
I'll never
Yeah.
get back. But at the same time, like, I don't find it to be a waste because I spent 3 months thinking about myself as a parent,
Mhm,
thinking about my children's behavior, and really, like, seeing them, focused on it
mhm,
and paying attention. So even though that resource that I chose didn't make a massive impact, there was a lot of intentionality in that relationship during that time. I think that even in ways that I couldn't see that had nothing to do with the book, we were making headway in our relationship. So it
mhm.
wasn't
No, and none of it is a waste. Even
right.
if because everything that we read, we don't apply all of it. But if you were just like, I realized that I was parenting this kind of situation wrong, and now I do it like this, that was worth the book. No, you
Yeah.
didn't get changed kids in 10 days like
Mhm.
it says on the cover, but that was probably a pipe dream anyway.
Yeah.
But you got something from it, and that's all that really
Yeah, I
matters.
will say, and a lot of this development that we're talking about is a lot of reading and that kind of stuff. There's podcasts, like you said, there's TikToks, there's online programs, there's workshops, there's conferences, there's so many different types of development. But
Mhm,
a little tip that I received a long, long time ago and started to apply that made a huge difference for me is with those self-development books, whether it was professional or whatever it was around. Once you read it, if you want to reread it, I don't go back and reread a full book. In fact, sometimes I don't even pick up the book and read it cover to cover. I will pick
mhm,
out a chapter, go through that chapter, and find a takeaway. Like, I'm going
mhm,
to focus on this particular aspect of this subject and take knowledge nuggets, the bite sized pieces that you can actually utilize and do something with. Because for some people, reading a book over and above all of your other daily life responsibilities is too much. That's
mhm.
okay. I mean, that's books have chapters for a reason. Take it
Yeah.
one bite at a time. And there's several books that I've gone back multiple times over. I'm not a movie rewatcher. I'm not a book rereader. I don't like that bores me. I'm like, I already
Mhm.
know this. I've read it. It doesn't matter that I haven't applied it yet. I already know it. I don't want to repeat stuff. But there was one book that we read, Multi-Unit Leadership was a
Mhm.
fantastic book, especially for the role that we were in, because we were
Yep.
definitely dealing with multiple units, to say the
Mhm.
very least.
Yeah.
Um, it was a fantastic book for somebody in our role. But what I loved about it is the way the chapters broke down. I could go back and revisit those. I could read that same chapter over and over and over, like years apart, and still find something new to apply that I didn't
Mhm.
fully create a habit out of the first time, you know?
Yeah.
So that was
Yeah.
really impactful for me.
Well, and I love that. Also, if you're a leader who is helping to manage self-development,
Mhm.
professional development for anybody, I I really liked the whole marketing department at our past life read one chapter, or maybe it was two chapters, of Discovery Inc. about Pixar.
Mhm.
And it was really interesting. And I didn't read the rest of the book. They asked us to read the one or two chapters. That's what I read. That was the takeaway. That's what they wanted us to learn. And that's what they wanted us to discuss as a team.
Yeah.
And it was so impactful. And I'm like, I read that book, but like, no, I read chapters 5 and 6 or something. But that's a good thing about professional development books, or really any development book. It's not like a romance novel where you have to
Yeah.
know the whole
You don't have to know the
story to
backstory to
get to
get the
the end.
takeaway.
Yeah, because every chapter has a different lesson for the
Mhm.
most part. And so I love that. I love just figuring out what works best for you, because sitting down to read a novel is fun for me. Sitting
Yeah.
down to read a development book cover to cover is not. And I'll get caught up in some of it and be happy that I'm learning these things. It's like, to me, that's more work, and reading a novel is more for fun. But if you just look at the table of contents, see the things that you really want to focus on and put it into more bite-sized pieces, it does. You get the development. You don't have to focus as long.
Yeah, I will say that those professional development books sometimes are so jam-packed with a whole bunch of things that I need to take away from it, but it's too much. I can't comprehend, I
You can't
can't
apply all of
apply
it.
all this stuff at one time. So,
Hmm.
taking it in bite-sized pieces and then going back and revisiting it has
Yep.
been the only way that I've been actually able to move the needle in any area that I've really been focused on. So, if you struggle with development books, I would say start there. Take one chapter of one book and see what you can apply. And once you've been able to do that, then pick it back up and find the next thing,
Yeah.
because sometimes it's way too much. It's overwhelming.
Yeah. I completely agree. So we talked about the different types of development, but I want to focus more on professional development, because most people who listen to this podcast are trying to figure things out professionally.
Yeah.
And I want to discuss some of the things that we might have taken for granted when it came to our past life and all of the development that we were given the opportunity to do. Because whether you're in corporate, or you own your own business, or you work for a small company, you still need to be thinking about this. You still need
Yeah.
to be professionally developing for a myriad of reasons.
Well, yeah, because your corporate life is only going to last so long. I mean, for some
Hmm.
people, I don't know anybody who retires after 50 years and gets their gold watch anymore, right?
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
you are the asset. So continue to invest in yourself
Hmm.
so that you're a bigger
Hmm.
and better asset in the future for the next company.
Hmm. Yeah. Or again, to go and start your own thing,
Hmm.
or to have, I don't know, like I'll tell a story about a keynote that we saw at a women's leadership series, and her name
Oh,
was
yeah.
Michelle Polar. And Michelle Polar did, and if you want to look her up, you can look her up on YouTube. Look for 100 Fears in 100 Days. She has a video that kind of explains and shows her journey in 100 days to get over so many fears. And her keynote is about that. And while that, I mean, it kind of speaks to me, because I'm also afraid of everything. And at that time was still very afraid of getting out of my comfort zone.
Hmm.
I Her keynote spoke to me so much. And to kind of set the stage, I was burned out from my job. I was trying to get off the road. That was my biggest goal. I needed to get off the road. I needed to be in one place. I needed to live my life again. And I was interviewing for a job to be an executive assistant. And I didn't know. I didn't know if that's what I wanted to do. I knew that that would get me off the road. All right. It was also going to move me to a whole different city away from all my people. And, but it was like, is it worth it? I can make a new
Yeah.
life there. I'm single. Like, I can do whatever I want. But I still wasn't sold on the job, and I still wasn't sold on a potentially dead-end job, right? Sometimes you can move up from executive assistant for sure, but I was like, do I need to keep climbing a ladder? I don't know. I was all over the place. And I see her and her keynote changed kind of my direction a lot. Like I shut down for sure taking that job. I was like,
Mhm.
no, I need to stay in marketing. I am passionate about marketing. I want to keep doing it. I still wasn't so happy about the traveling, but when someone talks to you for an hour about how they faced 100 of their fears, and I'm like, my biggest fear is just traveling all the time and having to be around people 24/7 and all these things that are wearing me out. I'm like, I can freaking do that, you know? So I had a bit of a mindset shift, and I had been working on public speaking at that time because we had to do so much of it in our
Mhm.
job. And I had started to like it. It stopped being like, I have blacked out during this entire presentation, and went to, I actually really like the direction I'm going. I'm not sucking anymore. I'm
Mhm.
getting to a place where I'm feeling confident in it. And now I need to explore that further. And watching her keynote and her TED Talk and all of those things, I was like, I need to set a goal to do a TED Talk. Now, I didn't have anything to do a TED Talk on, and I set a 5-year goal, and that has passed because I set a new goal to start a business. And
Yeah.
but it's back on the table now, you know?
Mhm.
And it all started because of one keynote at one women's leadership series. And if I hadn't been there, I don't even know where I'd be, because she spoke to me. I was like, she's here for me. Like, that's why they brought her in. She needed to help me. And I bet that several people have a similar story to me that were in the room that day, or that have heard her keynote because
Yeah.
they were looking for a sign, you know, they were looking for inspiration. And I can't tell you how much I was fired up for another 2 years after that to just go and travel and do the job. And truthfully, if COVID hadn't come, I probably wouldn't have lost so much momentum. I don't know. But it it just takes one afternoon and one keynote to do that. So are you getting out there and getting to these types of conferences where you have, if you're a woman, if you're seeing powerful women talking about something that is very inspiring to you, if you are, you know, a professional in C-suite and you are hearing other people who have successfully climbed that ladder and have the perfect team, and
Yeah,
are
it's
you, you
it's
know, are you
important.
getting that development? You should.
It's definitely important. Another thing that I really love about those leadership conferences, there's usually breakouts, there's usually
Mhm,
keynotes, there's networking opportunities, and that is where the power is for me, is
mhm,
being able to talk with like-minded individuals who have literally just been fed the same information, talk things through. People interpret things very differently, and
mhm,
having, networking lunches and things like that where you're meeting new people and you're talking about the
mhm,
things that you learned, um, it helps it to resonate a little bit deeper in ways that you can actually apply it, and creating contacts outside of your normal circle who are also focused on development in the same areas that you are.
mhm,
I think that's important because, to your point earlier, in some of these things, like, people can feel shame around needing to learn different things, whether it's
mhm,
professionally or personally or financially or like in any of those categories. But if you have a circle, even if it's a little bitty tiny one, if you have a circle of people that you can reach out to and continue to stay in community with that are focused on the things that you're focused on, you're more likely to keep applying those things in your life
mhm.
because there's accountability.
Yeah, I completely agree. So again, I don't think we ever took women's leadership for granted, like some of the other things that we had the
Yeah.
opportunity for.
We lit up over women's leadership. And I,
Yes.
I will say that for me specifically, I can't speak for you, but
Mhm,
maybe I was really, really excited about women's leadership because we were the team that was putting it on. It was
mhm,
orchestrating a massive event for the whole company.
mhm.
That is where I lit up. It wasn't
Yeah.
necessarily about all the little development pieces along the way, but when
Mhm,
I got to attend that, when we were no longer the team putting that together and just
mhm.
attend it and let it soak it all in, I was like, okay,
Yeah.
my focus has
But
been
both
very
were
different, but both
mhm.
were development
Yeah,
for
both were
us big
development
time.
because it was, I mean, putting on that scale of an event is huge.
Mhm.
And we developed a lot doing that, but also sitting in it and being a part of it is so impactful too. And that's why I still make sure that I do that, right? I don't put on a women's leadership series anymore, but I'm part of an organization, Little Black Book, who puts on the Become Conference for women every
Mhm.
March, and it is incredible. It's not the same. Every leadership seminar or
Mhm.
conference is going to be different, but I love this one because it's about development. It's about making you better in your business or better working for a business. It has the same types of breakouts where you learn soft skills. It has the same, your goal setting. It's interactive.
Mhm.
It's everything. And
Yeah.
then there's networking. There's so much networking that goes on in there. And it's different because you're not networking with the people who you work with every day like we did. We're networking with people who do all sorts of different things, which just is even better, in
Yeah.
my opinion, because you have now potential referral partners. You have there's one lady who is a huge part of this now, started her own business, Bree. She's been on our
Yep.
podcast, and she went as an employee to become a few years ago. And she's like, that's it. Got to start my own thing. I've been working for other people for my whole career and now it's time. And she just launched and she is so successful so quickly, but she soaked it all in and she made all of the contacts through those kind of conferences that her company paid for her to go to,
Yeah.
and
So let's back
we
up
want to
for
go.
just a second
Mhm,
because we've talked a little bit about what Become is,
mhm.
um, as far as like the internal workings of it, but give us the details on when it is, exactly what it is. So anybody listening who's like, yeah, I'm looking for that.
Yes. Okay. So the Become Conference is March 12th and 13th, 2026. So just in a few months. And it has keynotes, right? So you're going to see, I think, 4 keynote speakers on all different types of topics, but I literally leave with a page of notes from each of them every year. And it has breakouts where you get to kind of pick where you're going to go and spend your time to
Yeah.
get more in-depth training on something, whether it's marketing or self development or soft skills, right? There's lunches, there's cocktail hours, there's something I really love about Become is that in between stuff, there's little breaks and they have this area of vendors who, if you want to support local, right? If you want to
Mhm.
support small business, you can buy stuff from the vendors. People sell their books, people sell their clothing and their jewelry and their, like different things like that. But it's so nice to support women in business. So I love
Yeah.
that part too. And there's panels and there, like just the whole thing, like everything that you have ever seen at a women's conference or a leadership conference, you'll see there. And it's in St. Louis, Missouri, an evening and then a full day. And I got to tell you, like every year it lights me up. I look forward to it. It's like you have your conference in the spring and then you go and just explode it everywhere
Yeah,
for the rest
I'm
of the year.
super excited. Obviously, you've
Mhm.
been for a couple of years now, and I've
Mhm.
been watching how excited you've been. But to get to go
Mhm.
with you this year is really, really exciting. I haven't been
Yep.
to a leadership conference since leaving corporate, which
Yep.
tracks, totally makes sense.
Mhm.
But that stuff, like,
I
that's gold for me. Like,
it
I
is.
do
It
light
is.
up and usually take it to heart, and it makes an impact. So I'm really pumped about that to
100%.
go relight the fire and come back and
Mhm.
put it all to work.
Yep. So the tickets are still early bird pricing until I think next week. So I will put in the show notes that link if you want to get your tickets. Please do. You can buy a table. So if you have a group from your company
Yeah.
that you want to bring, or
Work
if you,
besties.
yeah, or if you just have a whole bunch of women that you network with or whatever, please come. It is, I mean, I'm telling you, just the best. And there's always, it's just, it's put on by the most creative people. So
Yeah.
it's always so fun. Yeah. Some of it feels like a concert and some of it feels like a art installation. And so, like it just I could talk about it all day. So great.
I love, love, love this, and we'll definitely put all that information in the show notes. But I'm sure there are people that are thinking, yeah, but that's probably expensive. And that is something that has stopped me in the past
Hmm.
before too. And even since leaving corporate, like I don't have corporate that's paying for my development anymore. I
Hmm.
will say that I have since learned and have applied this with therapy that there's nothing better to invest in than your own development. But should you find yourself being in still that corporate environment, working for a company, last week we had Denise on, and if you saw it, she definitely challenged that mindset of like, you don't necessarily have to be on your own with this. Like, companies are willing to invest in your development because, it's to their benefit to
Hmm.
have stronger, more empowered leaders that work for them. So
Hmm.
she was very gracious and
Hmm.
gave us some language that she spoke about on our podcast. We will include that also. There's a PDF. This form that we've got from her is very tailored to her one-to-one coaching and all the services that she provides in Waymire coaching. That I kind of think it applies across the board, and it's brilliant
Hmm.
of her to have a document like this to be able to share for people to be able to advocate for themselves within their company to say, hey,
Hmm.
I would really like to go get this development and here's how it's going to benefit you. Is this
Hmm.
okay? So we will attach that to the show notes for
Should I read
sure.
it to them? I want to read
Yeah.
this. So this is a email version, right? So I
Hmm.
just want you to think about, because I don't like to ask people for money. That
Yeah.
is something that makes me uncomfortable. And I just love how she worded this. So it says, "Hi, leader name. I'd like to request approval to participate in a 6-month one-on-one leadership coaching engagement with blah, blah, blah. This program will help me strengthen core capabilities that directly support our team's priorities, specifically clearer communication and alignment, stronger accountability, more effective cross functional collaboration, and faster, more strategic decision making. The coaching structure includes bi weekly sessions, assessments, feedback, and real time support on live challenges. I will apply the tools immediately, share relevant insights with the team, and keep you updated on progress. The estimated investment is blank. If approved, I'd prefer to begin on this date. Thank you for your consideration and openness to investing in my growth. Please let me know if you have any questions." And it's just so well put together, right? And
Yeah.
here's why I think so. So this is about a coaching program.
Hmm.
All right, over time. This could be for a leadership conference. This could be for a webinar that costs 25
Hmm.
do, or a Fred Pryor, you did those
Yeah.
Excel and different
Oh
classes.
my God. I
So
loved them.
I know. And so there's so many things you could do. And yes, you can pay out of pocket for your own development, but why not ask them? The worst that they can say is, "That's not in our budget right now. We can't do that," or, "We hate you." Definitely not. Like that would actually be worse. But then you pay for it yourself, or you decide that that's not a company that you want to work for, or,
Yeah.
make your decisions from there. But I loved her verbiage, because it's like, tell them what you're going to get out of it and how it will affect their
Yes,
business.
how it will apply to them, like make it make sense. I also think that when you go to ask for this budget, if you will, for development, there's a couple of things that are really, really smart. Like, know your company's budget cycles, right?
Mhm.
So, like, when do they, like, at the end of the year, right? Like, is there extra money in the budget that maybe wasn't spent earlier on? Like,
Mhm.
what does that look like? Or, like, in our case, like, we had a budget that was set at the beginning of the year and we always budgeted for development and things like that. And sometimes I would get to the end of the year and be like, I didn't use that. I didn't,
Yeah, I didn't
like,
use it
that's
up.
not, um, if you know the time of the year when there's money available for these things, act
Mhm.
on it at the right time because timing is everything in these companies. I also think that during performance reviews or if you're onboarding for a new position, discussing what development opportunities there are, or if there is a budget for continued development, I think that's a really strong thing to negotiate going
Mhm.
into a role that you're not interested in becoming stagnant. You want to
Mhm.
know that there's going to be growth and development along the way. If you're taking
Mhm.
on new responsibilities or sometimes when you get more work and there's no more pay with it, maybe you can negotiate in some development opportunities to help offset some of that resentment when you
Yep.
don't get the extra bump in pay.
Yeah. But I mean, think about there's so many planning meetings. At the end of the year, they're working out their budgets for the next year.
It's a
Throw it in
really
there.
great time to bring it up.
You don't know what you're going to be wanting to do specifically, but I would say ask them to set aside $500 for you. That
Yeah.
should get you a few things. And then if
Yeah.
they're really seeing the value in it, then you can ask for more next year.
And I would say, I like that budgeting, a set dollar amount and doing that, because if you really think about it, and like I said, our system was to take on a task or take on a development opportunity more on a quarterly basis. But maybe it's 3 times a year that you really dive into something big, because if you try to do too much, again, you can't always retain it all to be able to apply it. But if
Hmm.
you will just commit to 2, 3, maybe 4 things a year that you can really dive into, you'd be surprised at how you can stretch a budget to make that work.
Yeah.
Utilizing, maybe it's one conference and a couple of books, and maybe there's a podcast that you start to follow. You should follow ours, obviously, if you're listening.
Yeah.
But there's a ton of others that really dive deep into
Hmm.
actual development. I mean, we were talking about going to get development, but that will dive into a developing topic.
Hmm.
Several opportunities that you can do that can be really budget friendly as well.
Yeah. And if you are struggling for them to see the value in this, I think that it's worthwhile to, because Mandy, you did this. You wanted to go to that Rise with Rachel Hollis
Mm-hmm.
conference and you asked the boss and she wanted to go too, right? So
Yeah, and
you
then
can invite your boss.
we wound
Hmm.
up having a whole group of people that went, because I think there were a lot of people that really wanted to go that didn't know that they could advocate for themselves in that way. And then
Hmm.
once I got it approved, it was like, well, hold on, let's look around and see what makes sense. This is a great opportunity for other people too. And we wound up having a lot
Hmm.
of people go, and it was a very beneficial 3-day conference. It was prior to the crazy that wound up surrounding that particular name, but
Yeah.
I'm not going to discount what I got from that time
Yeah.
just because of what people say about her on the internet.
Hmm. No, and you don't need to. This was a good conversation.
Yeah, I love it.
I think that self-development is not a luxury, it's maintenance.
Mhm.
And especially if you have the kind of job or you are the kind of person who is burnout comes a looking for, right?
Yeah, you're
Just,
prone to it.
yeah, those things will help you. These types of self-development, professional development, they will help you. And if they don't, you're in the absolute wrong place and you really need to figure out your next move.
Yeah.
If you can't figure it out, even with these extra bits of personal, family, financial,
Yep.
professional development, if this doesn't work, it's too late. I think you need to probably figure out what your next move is, personally or professionally, right?
Yeah.
Something's not working, but these things do help, and they're not, I'm not saying that they're not optional, but you shouldn't look at them as optional.
Right. Yes, because growth will give you confidence whether you're going to stay
Yeah.
in corporate or
Hmm.
leave. Anytime that you're able to invest in yourself, whether you stay or you go, it's always going to be better for you. And the more you invest in yourself, the more opportunities will come your way, because you have more to offer
Mm.
confidently, because you know what
Yes.
you know.
Yes. And please think about what we talked about today. And I would love to see comments of what you are going to just focus on one thing, right?
Yeah.
Just focus on one book you're going to read, one podcast you're going to listen to, one conference that you've heard about and you just didn't know if, like, this is your sign that it's time to sign up for that conference that's going to help boost your confidence or help move you in the right direction. Just let's settle on something. It's November still. There's still time to talk to your company about paying for stuff for next year. They might still be able to get it in the budget.
This is kind of the perfect time. We
Maybe
start
that's the
planning
one thing.
2026.
Yep, maybe that's the one thing that you do is talk to your company and see if they can set a little bit of money aside for you to go to the Become conference, to buy that book series, or to purchase the webinar that you want to watch that's going to move things forward for you. So get talking to them. We will again put that verbiage in the show
Yeah.
notes so that you can copy and paste it. And you'll have to make some changes,
Yeah.
but
Shout
it'll
out
be
to
a good
Denise
start.
Waymeyer. That was such
Yes.
a great episode with her last week, and to have continued support. Thanks, girl. We appreciate it.
Mhm. Yes. All right. Well, happy Thanksgiving.
Yes. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah. All right. Everyone go have a good weekend and we'll see you next week.
See you
Bye.
later. Bye.